If you've just joined us on this episode of Question Time, we've been looking at the plight of the disappeared as the world marks the International Day of the Disappeared. And we'll be looking at the fate of the Chibok girls and what the intervention agencies in Nigeria are doing to provide a psychosocial support to these victims. And our guest on this episode of Question Time is Mr. Adeyemo Andrionicus. Let's quickly look at funding. What's the funding strength of the Nigerian Red Cross and what's the source of their funding? And is it well funded?
Nigerian Red Cross is not well funded. You may be surprised if I tell you that we don't have statutory allocation from the fiscal responsibility act of government that this is AY or 2%, 1%, 0.0% is coming to Nigerian Red Cross yearly. So we still depend on people like you, like Dangote, like Theophilus Danjuma, like our counterparts abroad, which their agents, their home governments are funding. We depend on British Red Cross, which DFID is funding. We depend on American Red Cross, which US government and USID, you said, is funding. So this will depend on Saudi Arabia Red Crescent, German Red Cross. So for how long can we continue?
Where do you draw the line between government interventions and government interference? Because since you are mounting an intense advocacy for government to support in terms of funding.
Yes, that's where the challenge is. We are independent. We have 7 fundamental principles with which we work. Principles of humanity, independence, neutrality. Those 3 core principles, perhaps when you give us funding, you cannot dictate to us how those funds or whom should be given. You cannot tell us that we should not give your political opponent. We will not take that type of funding if that condition is given.
Getting into the world of the disappeared, it appears there is one common factor, and that's the nature of being traumatized. In terms of providing psychological support for these victims, how far has the Nigerian Red Cross Society gone in this regard?
Yes, I think Nigerian Red Cross is one of the few organizations, humanitarian organizations that started providing psychosocial support to all these affected people all over, not just conflict affected people, even natural technological disaster. It may interest you that Dana plane crash 2012, Nigerian Red Cross provided psychosocial support at Agege area. We provided psychosocial support, and we have trained a number of staff and volunteers all over the country. There is no state where we don't have capacity.
What about in terms of providing technology? Because many people still believe that the interventions and emergency situations and disasters are still relatively slow in Nigeria.
Yes, NEMA has National Emergency Management Agency, has call center. The response time also, they are not spirits. The call center is not spirit. So media houses, both print and electronics like channels television, will play a dominant role, sensitizing the citizenry that they have to provide information 112 to the call center of NEMA. So NEMA will now mobilize. We don't pray for plane crash. If it is plane crash, NCAA, Federal Civil Aviation Authority will take a lead role. So NEMA will mobilize relevant agencies to the disaster, to the accident scene, to the disaster scene.
Mr. Adeyemo Andrionicus, thank you so much for making our time to be part of this episode of Question Time. Thank you very much indeed.
It's a pleasure. Thank you so much.
And that's it on this episode of Question Time. You may also send us your comments on our various social media platforms showing on your screen. Join us next week on another exciting episode of the show on Channels Television. Many thanks for watching. I'm Minga Ashiru. Bye for now.